Well, it's 7 minutes to 8, so I don't expect anybody to be here. It's quite strange, quite refreshing, quite calm. Maybe actually get something done. But for those that were here on the stream on Tuesday, we had some technical difficulties, and that's because my internet was sabotaged. Indeed, the box outside my house had been opened and somebody had tampered with one of the wires, but rest assured, a trusty screwdriver and some, well, getting wet later, and a torch, I have restored my internet back to, well, not a bad 214 down and 21 up. Cecilectomy, hello. Standard in, hello. Spudnik, hello. Dwio, I'll never pronounce that right. Good evening. Yes, we've just started a little bit earlier than normal. Just because I was keen to get going, really. Sort of sitting here twiddling my thumbs, thinking, oh, I may as well just start streaming. And we're just going to carry on, I think, with a bit of Space Thing. So there's nothing to say that the code zones are always going to be about Space Thing. We might break it up and do a slightly different project, particularly now we've gone to more streams per week. But for now, we'll stick with the Space Thing. I'm also a little bit more motivated to write some code tonight. On Tuesday, I was pretty tired. I've had a particularly busy time at work at the moment. Sea Thing. It would be exactly the same game, but instead of spaceship imagery, we'll just use boats. We could make a whole family of games, all exactly the same. Oh wait, isn't that like how most AAA studios do it? Holy Seraphimon, you got me in trouble this week, actually. Unbeknown to you, I was trying to pick out a song that had stuck in my head from a film called Baraka. Oh, this is a story, this, right? And it's a very, very good film, but it's a film sort of like the early to mid 90s called Baraka, and it featured a very fancy camera, but let's not get sidetracked by that. And they have a song in it by a band called, well, a band or a group or an ensemble called Dead Can Dance. And the song, I thought, was called, and I was convinced, and I was telling the guys to search for this song, Holy Seraphimin, or Holy Seraphimin, yes, I think that's what I was saying it was. And of course that name had stuck in my head, and I was thinking, I'm calling it this, and it wasn't called that in the end. Anyway, so yes, your fault, I got in trouble at work. Alex, yeah, it's okay, Gareth is streaming, I'm sure he's probably building a theme park or a city or something like that. Anyway, we're building Space Thing. So yes, internet is looking good and stable, so we can get rid of that. But I'll put that over there. Somebody will ask later on, how's the internet going? And the code is precisely where we left off. And we didn't get very far because we were sort of building a 2D array and making it really more complicated than it needs to be. And some design decisions have sort of ticked over in my head since about where to go with this. And I think what I'm going to do is stick with this. One of the original ideas was that the satellite wouldn't have a sort of grid to define its size. And we would use some sort of fancy tree-like structure to define the satellite. I'm still going to think about doing the tree-like structure, but in order to actually edit the satellites and to get them up and running, I'm just going to whack them straight into a grid. No messing around. Keep it simple, right? Make it work first, and then we'll make it work well. Because I also want to make it so we can edit them on a grid in the game, but then I was thinking it would be nice if this wasn't some sort of distinct modality from the rest of the solar system. Instead, maybe the grid became superimposed on wherever the satellite is in the actively spinning universe. And we can worry about that bit a bit later on, but tonight I want to establish this grid, and I want to get at least some very basic modules being stuck in the grid, so we'll see how far we get with the hour. Blimey, hello. Yes, caught a few people by surprise, I think, because I just started streaming and have made no sort of announcements that any of this is happening. Dandestein, Lapis, Saucy, Pitsy24, hello, welcome to all of you. Dandestein, you're lacking a little sword. Where's your little sword? Do you not have a little sword? There we go. Now you have a little sword. Yes, you do. Any news about the baby release? Well, the cloning chamber hasn't produced any kind of hatchling just yet. There'll be a couple of weeks off yet. I think we're looking at the beginning of June. Oh, something happened. Cecilectomy. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the subscription. Much appreciated. Yaku Wang, thank you very much. Miss Taz, hello. Right. Yes, we've started early, but it's now officially 8 o'clock. It's coding time, isn't it? We need a motto or a jingle or something. It's coding time. Zelsky, hello. So we'll see how popular Friday nights are, because I appreciate people are busy on Friday nights. You want to spend time with your family, you want to go out, lockdowns lifting, certainly in the UK. And tonight it's really, really nice weather outside. So I imagine people will want to be outside, socialising with their friends, drinking beer and all the things that coders aren't known for doing. Right, where are we going to start with this? I think we want to start basically with almost a blank pixel game engine, because let's focus on sort of developing the satellite building aspect. We don't really care too much about the space sort of simulation going on in the background. So in order to do that, I don't want to lose what I've got. I do want to sort of shove all of our rendering here that's specific to the solar system bit. I want to sort of shove that into a different function so we can quickly switch between the two. I think that's where I want to start anyway. Oh, hi Nanoic, hi Magetsu. Gillock. Hello. Twitch names, oh, I don't know. No, we started early. Started 10 minutes early, actually. Right. Where are we going to go then? So, I think what we want is a grid, and in that grid we want to start putting in our sort of shapes that we're going to define. I'm just seeing if they fit. So I think today to aim is just to get a grid in the space, and we can pull in an L-shaped piece or a general piece for the module of the satellite, and what we'll just try and do is fit those to a grid, because you know how slow these things go. That would be a good thing to aim for today. And eventually we're going to need to refactor all of this main file, because right now it's just a collection of experiments and ideas and things. But when we start turning it into the game, we're going to need to structure it all a little bit more. Hi Dragoneye. Voliant, hello. Stolen Bacon, hello. So I'm just thinking, should we just stick all of this in a different function? So we'll have basically two on user updates. Yes, okay, let's do that. So on update space mode. There we go. And we'll also have an on update satellite mode. Neither of these override, of course, but we will have that. We will still need our onUserUpdate function. Which is still overridden. But what this at least allows us to do is select between the two modes now. So on update satellite mode, and we'll just pass in straight away elapsed time. There we go. So now we've got a distinct mode. So this should just be a blank screen. Let's have a look. What's the best thing that begins with C and ends with an E? There's some in-joking going on from the Discord server this morning. Okay, good. Right, so now we're in a position where we can basically have our second mode. Now we're going to confuse everything by having lots of duplicate member variables, no doubt. But I think when we're editing satellites, I'd quite like the ability to still pan and zoom. But I'm going to use a slightly different panning and zooming tool. I'm still going to use a transform view, but I'm going to use a tile transform view. So just to make sure that we don't get all of these things contaminated. This is disgusting, hacking code together like this without actually thinking about partitioning it in any way. But that's the kind of thing I'm going to be doing off stream. It's not very interesting watching me refactor code. What did we want to do? OLC tile transformed view. And I think we'll need to prefix all of these sort of things with something different because we're going to end up with variable names being the same. No, we'll just call that one TTV. Now, I can't remember how to actually instantiate a tile transform view. I guess we're going to find out. So TTV dot initialize. Now, what have we got here? Yeah, I think that's all I need to do, isn't it? Initialize with the pixel scale. I think that means how many pixels are there per tile, but I thought the tile transform view actually had something a little bit more sophisticated than that. We shall see. Does it have a constructor? I think it does have a constructor. We'll have to have a look. Can't remember. Go to peak definition. Oh yes, peak definition is no good for streaming, is it? Transformed views. If I go down to tiled transformed view, which I think is here, there we go. Tiled transformed view has a constructor, yes, which passes in the tile size, and it doesn't use the initialize function. So this one we need to actually set the constructor on. That's a bit messy, but okay, we can go with that. We can work with it. So our TTV tile transform view, we want to pass in the view area, which is still screen width by screen height. And our tile size. Now, we decided last time, just after the stream, we actually had a bit of a discussion on the Discord server about what is going to be the nature of the graphics that we're going to use. And Danderstein was asking all the right questions about how we could define a standard for users to sort of contribute artwork and things. And somebody did. So who did? We had some pictures submitted by Gruffler on the Discord server. They're pretty cool, actually. Let me just pull over my Discord window. There we go. So they were pretty cool artwork. I'm assuming the images that he has drawn, she has drawn, and they sort of fit the pattern that we want to go for. I'm unsure about the hand-drawn style just yet, but nonetheless, people submitting these. But Danderstein and I had a good long conversation about precisely what should define the images, and we came up with some basic templates of how modules and cells should be connected. Let's put this back. Yes, and Magetsub contributed a nebula, yes. You'd watch Refactoring, would you, Cecil, like to me? I'm not so sure about that. Well, anyway, it turns out that a single tile is going to be 256 by 256, which seems very, very large. So we'll have to see how well that all comes together. The reason being is we want to put quite a bit of detail. 256 by 256 actually isn't that large, it turns out. It may be that we want to do them larger. We'll see. A bit of experimentation required, and that's kind of what we're building the tools for today. Wow, we've all sorts of junk going on in this file. This definitely needs a good old sort. Forgot that we had all of this procedural random number generator stuff and everything else in here. Ooh, Replicant Owl. I like that name. Thank you for the follow. And Speedy is here. There we go. Hi, Speedy. Alex went to dinner. What did you miss? Well, come on, this is the CodeZone. Not very much is the answer. But what we can do now is we can actually steal all of the same zooming code, because that doesn't change. We just need to pass it now to TTV instead. So T, 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 T for tile transformed view. And I just want to sort of get a feel to see if that is accurate. So if I draw now, right, this is the thing. Nope. And Replicant Owl with a subscription there. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Much appreciated. In Tile Transform View, I mean, it's been a while since I've used this one. I think everything now is relative to a tile in size. So if I go to ttv.draw, let's do fill. Fill rect. Fill rect decal for now. Let's go with that, and specify a position of 0, 0, but a size of 1 by 1, and we'll leave it as white. How big is that going to be? Hopefully quite large. Either that or I've thoroughly misunderstood what it is I'm trying to do here. Good, right, so that's a 256 by 256 rectangle of pixels, even though we've specified the size explicitly to be 1 by 1. So that's the difference between tile transform view and regular transform view. And this should now have all the same panning and zooming capabilities as before. But we're now in this tile space, which is very convenient to work in. So we can actually address it. This is 0, 0, and next to it will be 0, 1. But the tile itself can be whatever size that we choose it to be. Hey Terry, yes, a Friday stream, and Densming, I want to be careful pronouncing that one. Hello, yes, good to catch Friday stream. So this is actually our first Friday stream, and I see no reason why they shouldn't continue for a little bit. I will point out they might not always be space thing, they could be other things too, but right now I'm in a space thing mood. And I am currently drinking out of a Mrs. M&M mug. Not that I'm sponsored by M&M's. And just to settle any debates before they start, the blue packets of M&M's are the best ones. That debate is now concluded. Let's continue with the code. So we now know we can draw particular tiles. Now I could load graphics and things, but what I was really interested in is the sort of tile editing capabilities that the tile transformed view has. As long as they aren't Skittles. Well, Skittles are quite nice. The ones with eatable paper in them. There's no debate here. You've never eaten M&M's, Alex? Really? I'll send you some M&M's. Right. My cough's not very good today either, so I'm going to be coughing a little bit. Are they any sugar-free M&M's? I have no idea. Probably not. I was just looking at the stream and wondering why it's just past 8. Yes, sorry about that. It is just past 8 here in the UK. M&M's are movie snacks, not the blue ones. Right, where was I going? So what I want to try and do now is, yes, I want to get the mouse coordinates, don't I? I don't think I have any facility for that. So, but I do want to sort of highlight which cell the mouse is currently over. So let's look at it from that perspective. So let's VI2D, V mouse. And this is always going to be relative to the cell that we're selected. So I do want to get my screen position. But I want to translate it from screen to world. So that would be ttv.screen to world. And in here, I'm going to put my get mouse pos. Now, this function, I believe, has some history. And Terry will be groaning already. So I won't go into it just yet. So yes, get mouse pos. Now, oh, excuse me. That should auto magically sort of become integer based. At which point now I should be able to ttv.drawRect and just specify that location directly. VMouse size is going to be 1 by 1. We'll draw that as yellow. And I'm not going to fill the rect anymore. So what I'm hoping for that this is going to give me is a yellow rectangle sort of locked to the grid in integer space in my tile transform view. Yes, it does. Perfect. Look at that. Very good. But we've not erased the existing grid. So let's we need to clear the screen. So clear OLC black. Oh, whilst we're in editing mode, let's do it as dark blue instead. I'm fed up of everything looking gloomy and dark. Right, so now we've got this sort of nice, this nice sort of cell editor. So we'll be able to select positions in space. Clearly, though, that is not over my mouse cursor. That's interesting. What's going on there? Is it because we've gone into negative space over there? Okay, right. We need to round that appropriately. But negative space is okay because we're not actually going to be using negative space. So just to make sure we're not using negative space, I think what we'll do is draw in a full grid here, which is going to be our editable region. Have we hit the world of transformations and projections? Yes. Right, okay, Joe Pitsy. Fed up of gloomy and dark. Right, okay, nope, fine. We'll do it your way. We'll have magenta backgrounds, and we'll stick with yellow for the highlighting rect for the time being. There we go. Everybody's going to prefer that now. That's much better. There we are. The community-driven projects, don't say you don't get involved. Right, so I do actually want to sort of draw a grid of some description so we know where we're actually hitting with the mouse. So let's do that as well. I don't know how big this grid is going to be, but we'll probably have that defined by the satellite. So for now, let's just bang that in as a variable up here. V satellite. How do you spell satellite? Satellite. Is there two T's in satellite? No, that looks better. Somebody will catch me up on that. V satellite size that I'm going to say is a maximum in this case of 20 by 20. Satellite. It has two L's. There we are. I knew it had two of something. Spelling's not a strong point of mine. I think it's two T's. You think it's two T's. Standard Int thinks it's two L's. 20 by 20. So let's iterate across those. So for int x equals 0. Now this is in tile space, don't forget. So x equals 0. X is less than v satellite size, but I want to do less than or equals actually. In this instance, satellite size x plus plus, and we're going to draw vertical lines first. So ttv dot draw line, and we'll do that from the x position, comma 0, and we're drawing it to the y position, which is v satellite size dot y, and we'll draw those in. We'll draw those in grey for now, dark grey, just so it's just like a faint ruling. I'm half tempted to also draw them with a pattern. Let's try drawing with a pattern too. So we'll have a pattern of FF00, FF00. So a coarse dashed line. And we've done the vertical lines, so let's do the horizontal lines now. So that's going to Y. And we're starting at 0, and we're going to go to Y. And this time we're going all the way over to v satellite size dot x, And that one's going to be Y. Okay. This what will this adding? Sorry, I read the comments backwards, so that's why I get these things sort of all in the wrong order. I know it might be boring, but what if we add a bit of Lua? We will be adding some Lua to this project. Absolutely, we will be adding some Lua to this project. My intention is actually probably sooner than you think to add some Lua to this project, because I want to define all of these satellites and bits and components and things externally in a Lua file. This is currently, it's a separate space station editor, so we can get to the very simple task. It's a hacked one together to get us to just start experimenting with building satellites. Ultimately, we'll do this in game, but for the time being, we just need to build up the data structures and start understanding how satellites function, I think. So it's a sort of a separate tool, which I'm just hijacking the code. And I mentioned before, we'll refactor all of this later on. Right, let's see what this looks like. So we say, oh, hang on, we've got some errors. See, that might be something we work on over the weekend on Sunday. There'll be a little stream on Sunday. I'd like it so we can all type in things like bug and fail into the chat and it pings things across the screen. I think those sort of things are annoying. So no doubt you guys probably think they're okay. What have I messed up here? I've got some integers somewhere I shouldn't have some integers. I'm guessing it is the drawLine function. 164, yeah, it requires a narrowing conversion. I'll just force it. Sorted out C compiler. It used to be able to do floats to integers and integers to floats. Oh, it's still the same thing. That's just tedious. Fine, we'll do it the way it wants to. We used to have a way of casting these things. Why are they not casting? It's expecting floating points. We're passing in integer here. I think it's just being confused. But I'm sure we had a way to make these vectors cast over. That's tedious, isn't it? No doubt Tarry will be screaming at us now. Tezza, hello. You're right, Standard In. There is some an often picked up thing about drawRect and fillRect. I'm drawing them as lines in this instance because they're going to be very large, and so I'm also using a high resolution display. The discrepancy of 1 pixel might not be as noticeable as you might think, and I just want to, because I know that will fix it for that line. I just want to make sure that I'm absolutely positive we used to have a way of dealing with this built into the vector type. So why has that suddenly stopped working? So I just want to see if that compiles. Yep, doesn't like it. Interesting. I think this is all backwards now. This is one thing I don't like about it. If I explicitly say that that's an integer to vi2d, now I think that's where the cast happens. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. Alright, so that was the solution, wasn't it? Even though it's expecting the floating point ones, we can pass it integer ones. Okay, learned. No for next time. Right, so now we have a nice grid. Right? You can barely see it because somebody wanted a nice bright magenta background instead. But in very little code, the transform view has handled all the hard work for us. We've now got a grid of tiles. We can pan and zoom, and we can select specific locations. Yes, Joe deselected the colour today, so that's the colour we're having. Terrible colour combination. You guys are so hard to please. I think magenta, grey and yellow is an excellent triplet to be working with. Well, you didn't want blue to start with. You all wanted magenta. I saw it explicitly in the text. It's a shame that the text isn't recorded indefinitely. Is there any way to make the background more magenta? Magenta. Probably not by definition in this case. We can take some of the edge off it. Go on, I'll give in just a little bit. We can actually say very dark magenta. At least I think we can say very dark magenta. We can. There we go. That's more of a purple colour. But that's quite nice, right? That's a bit different. And the lines can be full magenta. Regardless, we've now got sort of an editable space where the cursor does seem to be reasonably accurately aligned with the cells. Yeah, the transition is good. I'm happy with that. It was interesting that when we go into this negative space up here... Oh, hang on. Julian Nichols, thank you very much for some bits there. Thank you. Ah, nice magenta bits too. How appropriate. It's interesting that this sort of discrepancy happens in this negative space. That is, of course, just a rounding problem. But that's okay. Our satellites will be indexed from 0, 0 in the top left, and they will have a grid of a certain size, and we're going to start filling this now with satellite-shaped pieces. And that's where we really wanted to sort of get working on today. Which I guess is the next thing to think about. So yeah, we can turn magenta into something. This is very, very dark magenta. Maybe the dotted lines panning around isn't very good for the Twitch stream. So if it's causing problems, let me know, and I'll turn those back to solid lines. It might compress a little easier. I'm doing grid distribution stuff. Nothing that sophisticated. We're going to be using this grid to edit a bit of a satellite. Or at least we're going to try and edit a bit of a satellite. So we've got our editing grid. We know where our mouse is. We now need to sort of prime our mouse with a piece to place. To say these things very carefully because it's a stream for all ages. And the module I need to pull in is my new module that we started developing on Tuesday, which is oddly C module. Which is Space Station, and the file is called spacestation.h. And we came up with this elaborate sort of numeracy scheme for identifying what the cells should be. So these are the individual cells in the module, and a collection of modules makes a space station. So we're getting a bit of a hierarchy there. Let's bang this header file into our main program. We called them space stations, which is probably better than satellite, because I'll always be spelling satellite incorrectly. And for now, we will hack in a module. We've not done a module yet. We've not actually made one. So let's do that here. C module. And I can't even remember what the module was. The module was just a glorified 2D array, wasn't it? So we created it with a specific size and potentially some imagery. I don't even think we got as far as implementing any of the parts. Oh, we did, didn't we? We had we had this, but we didn't actually do anything with it. We just created a vector that represented that particular module. The module had a max size of 4x4. It's all flooding back to me now. And we could get the specific cells based upon the current rotation, but we need a way of defining our module too. So instead of this get cell here, I'm going to also create, I'm going to turn that into returning a reference, I think. So we can just sort of get access to the cell directly and manipulate them as required. I think that makes sense. I think that makes a sensible way to do it. If not, we'll come back to it. The downside is what happens when we're choosing a cell. I don't think we could do it just as simple as that. Yeah, I kind of don't want that. Yeah, don't want it like that. Design, yeah, we don't do design here. We just make things up as we go along. That's falling over because this is not defined. At least I thought it was. Must be non-const. I wanted to give me the element. Why is it not returning the element? Why is my brain not switched on? What have I forgotten? That can't be right. Yeah, Tezza, and that's really what these streams are about. It's about sort of hacking things up. So for creating a simple game engine, just make it up as you go along. Have fun. That's the important part. Right? Always remember that basically nobody is ever going to use your stuff. So write it for you first before worrying about other people. Now what happens when we're trying to access a cell that's not within range? Do you know, I could just take the horrible hacky way and just say, well, you know what, that's never going to happen. Or we could try dealing with this properly, and instead of trying to hack, okay, right, fine. I can hear Hewlig shouting at me from San Francisco. We'll put in a set cell equivalent. See, these are only ever going to be loaded once, so it's just a shame there's a bit too much information going on here. All right. Void set cell. And I'll tell you what, because we're setting the cells, we don't actually need the rotation part at all. These will be always set relative to the original orientation of the module. I think that makes I think that's a tidier solution on the whole. So we'll set a specific cell, and we need to pass in a value that represents it. So we've not really got that far yet. So some sort of value for constant u int 8. T and cell. When you start writing code, it gets made. Well, I mean, look at this, right? So right now, my main file contains basically 2 separate projects. I've got code in there from 4 or 5 streams ago, which we've not used. There's nothing wrong at all with code being a mess, but you do have to go back and sort it out at some point if you want it to actually grow. I like the fact that code sort of grows like a bush, and then you sort of trim it all back, and then it grows a bit more in a particular direction, and over time you sculpt it into what you want. Code is art. Right, and we'll just do a double check. Now, this was the Danderstein hack, wasn't it? Which we're still not entirely convinced about, but hey-ho. If the pos is within the bounds of the array, then we can set specifically mv module map. What was the size? mv size dot y times. Sorry, no, I'm getting confused. That's v pos dot y times mv size dot x plus v pos dot x. Yes, that smells about right. Set that to the cell. Otherwise, we don't do anything. We just silently fail, as always. What's the double colon in CPP? It's just sort of the way of separating naming conventions and associating properties with classes. Bit of an itchy foot there. That's an interesting thing to happen when you're doing a coding stream. So we now have our set cell. We need to populate our module with something. So let's go and create a module first. That seems like the right place to start. Right, we're doing this in our main game. So we've created our module. I'll just simply call it module. Ooh, hello. Well, I like that syntax highlighting choice there, Visual Studio, but I suspect it's going to come back and bite me somehow. So in that case, we'll try module 1, just to be sure. Module 1. So on user create, that's where we want to create our module. So I'm just going to bang some comments in here. Well, it's because modules are new in the C++20 spec, aren't they? So I think it's the compiler trying to sort itself out. The Chazeg, hello. That's the word I was looking for. Dreamcuber scope operator. Yes, that's it. That's the one. Second stream in the same week. Yes, Apostolisk. And, well, hopefully this is how it'll go for the foreseeable future. It's not going too bad. My internet's good tonight. In fact, I know that there'll be enough nerds in the chat that care about such things. So that is the current internet speed. That is about as good as it gets for me, particularly with the upload. The download can sometimes go up to about 260. So I'm happy with that. It's one of the best I can get in the area of the country I'm in. I've had both of my vaccines, actually. I am fully vaccinated. Yeah, I can receive 5G and all sorts. I don't mind Bill Gates tapping into my thoughts. I'd rather it be Bill Gates than... I'm not going to finish that sentence. Module 1 equals... dot create. So we need to give our module some size. And I think we're going to say, basically the size is always going to be 4 by 4. I think that's what we've learnt from the experiments. And I've not got an image to actually specify just yet. What is wrong with this 4? Too many initializer values. Why? What? Huh? Because it genuinely is just an integer value. Okay, fine. Okay, give me a break, compiler. We've got our module. We now need to populate our module with a design of some description. So let's try module 1 dot set cell. And the pattern I'm going to go for is, let's draw this out. So I want 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going for a deliberately awkward shape because I want to be able to sort of test the collisions and things later on. So I'm going to have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. I've not got doors or anything to worry about just yet. So I'm going to set cell. I could use some fancy string parsing tool to make these for me, but I'm just going to do it as is. Set cell 0, 1. And we said, what did we say was the value for any module that just existed but didn't have a door? I'm still not entirely convinced I like these numbers. It exists, and if it has a door, they're going to get set. Okay, fine, right, we'll do it like that. So it exists, and we'll give these names as well at some point, but not today. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3. No. 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. Yeah, I was all right. I had the good old blood clotting vaccine, and it was the first one. I was okay until about 48 hours after, and then I had a rough evening. I was just tired and felt a bit feverish, but it disappeared after 2 or 3 hours. And the second one, I had no ill effects at all. So I'm hoping that means the first one worked, or they've been injecting me with microchips. It's important, I think. I mean, we're not an anti-vax community on the whole. I think it's quite important that you go and get yourself vaccinated. I've had all sorts of vaccines. I've travelled a fair bit, so I've had all the sort of weird ones and tropical ones. Yeah, Saucy, I think on the whole, even despite this little bit of fever, the most discomfort from it was for about a week. Sleeping on that side was more painful. Who needs a microchip in your vaccine? Can you imagine the power if you had a microchip in your vaccines? Whoa. First vaccine is for left, second is for right. I think I got both of mine in my left arm, I think. Right, so we have what is a module. We just now need a way of drawing this module. And we're going to draw it wherever the mouse is. So let's have a think about doing that. We're going to assume that our module is always 0, 0. And what I mean by that is that up here, this is 0, 0, and that's going to be sort of the origin of the module. We've decided to clamp these to 4x4, which I think was a good decision, because it does actually make some of the rotation stuff a bit simpler to work with. We did say sort of on Tuesday maybe we'd go through the maths and try and work it all out, but I don't want to go through maths on a Friday night. It's Friday night. So now let's draw this module in the same space wherever the mouse is. Which means I just need to I need to get each cell and then offset those by the mouse location. It's as simple as that. Okay. Well, we know it's going to be 4x4 in total, so I'm just trying to think of an elegant way to sort these things out. You need to V cell. So cell is the individual component of a module. 4 int y equals 0, y is less than 4, y plus plus. Yes, because we know we've got this sort of fixed size now. IntelliSense today is half asleep. And we're just going to iterate through all 4. Because, I mean, it's only 16 cells. We don't need any fancy structures there. But I do want the positions of the cells. That's quite important. Excuse me. And then I'm going to get the cell value. N cell. N cell is going to be our module 1. Module. That was a terrible typo of everything, wasn't it? Module 1 dot get cell, give it our v cell value, and a particular rotation, and we'll come back to rotation in a minute. Then once we've got a excuse me, once we've got our cell, we want to draw the cell for that location if the value is greater or equal to 16. So if n cell is greater than or equal to 16, i.e. not 0 in this case, then we want to draw the module. Now, I got rid of the code for this, but I'll put it back in. Fill. Yeah, we'll use decals again, because I'm going to load them as textures, I think. Fill rect decal. The position now is our cell position plus our mouse position. There we go. Yes. The size is going to be still 1 by 1. And for now, we'll fill them in with white, but ultimately we'll actually just draw the decal. We'll actually draw the image that we've associated with it. Let's take a look at that. I do have my special Vimto. It's my hot Vimto. Well, I'm already discouraged that I can't actually see the decals that we're supposed to be drawing. Why is this? I suspect it's a problem with how we've defined our module. Well, let's bust open the deep. Let's firstly just have a quick look at it and make sure we've not missed anything obvious. Have I actually returned the right information? rotation is going to be 0, so that's just going to be y times width plus x. I actually set those things correctly. Okay, well, let's run it here. Let's see if we're in debug mode. Let's go through it. Ah, you're never giving vcell a value. Good point, good point, good point. That'll be it. Good, I'm glad somebody's awake. Once you've started the debugger, you can't stop the debugger. Now, this is why we don't typically run in debug mode, all that image being loaded. So the problem that has been highlighted, to get the right name, Densmig. I'm well going to say that wrong one day. Densmig. Yes, we get the cell, but we never actually specify it here. So we want to do you know what? Let's do this properly. vcell.y you and you and you and you and you. There we go. What does OLC use behind the scenes? Behind the scenes of what? Still not doing it. Ah, we're not drawing in our transform view, we're drawing somewhere weird. I'm going to put this back in release mode, or else we'll be doing these sort of development cycles over and over again. Ah, we've got the YouTube batch. If that gets annoying, I'll turn the sound down. There we go. So now we've got our module linked to our space. It's just a direct link at the moment, so the 4x4 grid is linked directly via the 0, 0 coordinate. We might want to centralize it or something. Right, yes, okay, so just to fill in, there's a bit of a chat going on here. I'm using my tool called the Pixel Game Engine, which is sort of the second version of the console game engine, where we ditched doing things with ASCII characters and instead use actual pixels. So it's a bit more conventional in that respect, but it's completely, well, say completely, it's very, very compatible with the code from the console game engine. The concept is the same, the functions are named the same thing, except you're drawing colors instead of ASCII characters. That's the only difference, really. But the Pixel Game Engine has matured. It's got a fairly large audience of users. It's got documentation. It's got demos and videos. It's maintained. There's a group of us on the Discord server that work towards keeping it up to date and sorting out the bugs and that sort of thing. So it's actually turned into a real tool. Space Station Tetris. It is a little bit like Space Station Tetris, isn't it? Will version 3 be the sub-pixel engine? We used to have sub-pixels in the Pixel Game Engine, but then I got rid of them because nobody used them. Nobody really understood what they were there for. And then complained when I took them out, and I don't know why. Right, so we've got our thing. We want to add in sort of rotation. Now, for rotation, I'm going to do that on mouse click. Right mouse click should rotate the piece. But we do need to sort of store the rotation we've currently got. So let's create a temporary variable somewhere for our rotation value. uint 8t mn module rotate. We'll set that to 0. And so if the user right clicks, which is button 1, .b pressed, then I want to increment that rotation value. I've forgotten already what I called it. What did I call it? Where did I put it? I've just sort of shoved it in. Yeah, where was it gone? I just kind of shoved it in on user create there. Let's bang that up there. It's a bit more useful there. Module rotate. That was it. Mn module rotate. I'm just going to increment that. Can I do something really clever here? Because all I want to do is plus plus module rotate and then and itself with 0x3. Oh. Will that work? That should work, shouldn't it? I think that'll work. Right, so let's just... we need to actually get it to do the rotation, don't we? So where is the rotation? Let's get rid of you for a second. The rotation is going on here. MN module rotate. How much concentration? God, you don't see concentration going on here, do you? Right, so we've got our Tetris piece, and if I right-click, we can now rotate the piece. I just keep rotating. Right, good. Yeah, it does go in all 4 positions. No, I like that. That's good. Round cubes. Oh, Danicron, you absolutely weren't first. Mana Suma, hi, first time here. What do you code about? Well, I code pretty much almost anything, but today we're implementing satellites, which are a feature in a sort of a long series game that I'm working on, where we're sort of building Sim City but in space. Bit weird. And it's this is what I call the code zone, and it's completely unscripted. It's totally unrehearsed. It's mostly chaos and mistakes, and it's this community they're built up around the sort of One Lone Coder YouTube channel, getting involved, basically shouting at me in the Twitch chat. Can anybody else hear the Tetris music? Wouldn't it be better to store the rotation as a property of the module? Well, the module, yes, it will be, and it will be when we start adding that to the satellite model. But for now, what I want is this sort of one that represents the cursor, which is sort of the module of the space station looking like the cursor. Let's liven this up a little bit with at least some of the user graphics that have been given in. So I'm going to take that one, open the original, save image as, and I'm just going to stick that in my space thing folder. E drive, space thing, assets. And this was posted by, to remember the name. I want to try and make sure I keep a list of all the credits of anything that people donate. Gruffler. .png. We'll just save that as is for now, because that'll allow me to load it when we actually create the module. Because part of the module class, let's get rid of this. The module class takes in a path, and that path was to load this overlay renderable. Now, the trouble is, the modules that Gruffler has provided are single cell modules. We've not really got any L-shaped ones. But for now, instead of just drawing the white rectangle, I'm going to draw the graphic instead, because I think they look cool. And it will allow us to flesh out some of this as well. So yes, to answer that original question, we will ultimately be storing, when we start compositing the satellite, we will be storing the rotations along with the module instance at that, for that sort of stamp. But right now I'm using the module as a tool, as a cursor, and that's why I'm keeping the things separate. Can we tint the decals magenta, please? Well, thank you, Barnold. I'm pleased you remembered it. Gruffler. I do have to ask, and I apologise if this is incredibly offensive, but this is your artwork, isn't it? I do have to ask that question. It's not like something that you've seen and then doctored and copied. It's not a problem if you have, but good. If it's your stuff, fine, that's fine. It's just so I know I'm giving the attribution to the right person, that's all. Right, so let's go into where we create the module, and we'll pass in the path to the Gruffler imagery. Yes, let's do that. Main game module 1. Where's our create for module 1? There we go. So it's dot/assets/gruffler1.png. I do think that YouTube and Twitch talks together. I watch YouTuber, he shows up on Twitch sometimes later. Well, to be fair, I was on Twitch before I was doing YouTube. I just wasn't very good at either, and I had no audience. Things were simpler back then. Just me talking to an empty room. Occasionally, the wife shouting upstairs, "Who are you talking to?" And I'd go, "Nobody." It's a strange life, isn't it? Right. So we load the image there, but we don't actually load the renderable. So that's the next thing we need to do. We actually need to load the renderable here. So we've got our MGFX overlay. Now, this is ultimately meant to be the same shape as the template that we've made, but it isn't in this instance. So I'm just going to store this renderable here. Dot load S image. Now, I think we'll keep the pixelated look for the time being. So I won't apply a filter, but I do need a way of actually getting hold of this graphic, and we don't have a thingamybobby for that. So let's throw in a thingamybobby for OLC decal, because it's stored as a unique pointer. Just making sure, is this the way I really want to go with this? Okay, yeah, let's do it like that. Come on, keep up. Create you, and we're going to MGFX overlay dot decal. Right, so now that should load and we can get access to the decal, providing I've got the file path right. I'll just double check that I've got the file path right in the assets, and that I called it the right thing, because for some reason I said Gruffalo and not Gruffler, I think. No, Gruffler.png. I didn't call it Gruffler1.png. And instead of drawing the filled rect here, what we should be able to do, he says optimistically, draw decal, give it the same location, scale we can keep as being 1:1, but the decal we pass in is now the module 1 dot get decal. Right, fair few changes though. Let's see if this works. Right, okay, good. Well, good-ish. What size were these images, Gruffler? Maybe that's the first thing I should have checked. I don't think they necessarily conform to the specification that we set. They look like they're a little bit offset to me and not quite adhering to the specification. Excuse me. They were 256 plus the 16. No, it was 256 minus the 16 is what we wanted. So we did actually need to scale those down. But we can do that, right? Now that we know what you've done them to. So it was we need to get a calculator. What can I scale them by? So if I scale them by 240 plus 16, yeah, they should be 224 in size. Yeah, the final PNG. We were saying, Dandestein, right at the start that there's a spec sort of being provided in the Discord chat. What the actual sizes should be, but for now it's fine. It's okay. It doesn't matter. We can continue with what we're doing. I just wanted to have some sort of user graphics on the screen, which is nice. So we've got our graphics there. What we want to check now is sort of sticking these into a larger structure, which is the satellite itself. And that will, of course, happen when you left-click to sort of stamp it in place. But it can only stamp it in place if it's valid to put it at that location. Should I start doing this? Because I'm just looking at the time. We're kind of at the end, you see. That's the problem. I don't really want to start jumping into something right away. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there because that's sort of the... I want to keep these things to about an hour because on Fridays I want to go and have a chat with a few people on the Discord afterwards. And I did start a little bit early today, so I'm going to leave it there. We've not done so bad. We've managed to create basically a gigantic game of Omnitris, where you can place these shapes. Well, you can't place them yet, but we've got this rotation of the satellite module. Now, broader speaking of what we're doing with the rest of the game, because I think the idea is you can place these bits of satellite to build up functional craft. Now, I'm not sort of saying Factorio-esque kind of building, but maybe we could start thinking about actually you have to carefully devise the satellites in order to process the resources that you need in order to grow your space empire. So you actually need to create the resources you need to make your more satellites, to make more ships, and then build up your logistics network around the solar system. So I think that's how it's going to be. Can you scale by 0.94? Is that the number? Did somebody do the sums? 0.94. Will that stop everybody screaming and shouting at the screen? 0.94. Right, the magic number. Apostolisk has got his maths out. He's going to sort it out so these all line up. There we go. Not quite. Not quite. Better, I would say. It's a B minus, to be honest. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not perfect. Bit of a B minus. Right, yes, so I'm going to leave it there, I think, because it's been an hour. So that was episode 12, I think. I can't believe we've done 12, but now we're going to start doing sort of Mondays and Fridays. I might be doing another stream over the weekend. They probably won't be considered CodeZone. They'll be allowing me to sort of code other things and potentially maybe even play a game or two. Just having a bit of fun online and with the community. So I'll let you know either way on Twitch and Discord. Until then, take care and see you later.